Okay, here we go. So, hi everybody. This is my very, very first interview with Live Work Anywhere, and I'm super excited because I have the best guest on the show today, Andrew Warner of mixergy.com. Where if you don't already know, Mixergy is a site where proven entrepreneurs teach others how they did it. And Andrew's been running Mixergy for several years. I've been a premium fan and huge fan, and not only running Mixergy. Andrew's been running it from Washington D.C., from Argentina, from L.A., Austin, Lake Tahoe, and all over the world. And I'm really excited to have Andrew here to tell you what he's learned, what he's doing, what not to do, and some tips that you can take away. And I think Andrew, you said that you're in San Francisco now. You are. Okay. Wow, you do bounce around. I love this. And a second ago, we talked about the mobility criteria. So I like to think about when you want to be mobile, you have to have a system in place. You have to have a set of mobility criteria. So what would you consider as your list of mobility criteria? It's true. Cool. Wow. That's awesome, Andrew. You brought up so many good points. Community, office space, strong internet. Um, who are you going to run into? When you said also, one of my questions was going to be, did you Regis? I definitely want to jot some of these places down. And you even went on Craigslist. I don't think that that's. Can you tell us sort of as we transition into more co-working spaces or Regis, like what's the average price that you paid, and can you dive into one of those experiences a little? Okay. Are you in a Regis right now? You said in here. Okay. Okay, you are. No, I think there's a lot to be said for redundancy, a lot to be said for you don't, people say, ha ha ha, this goes out. In one experience I had in Argentina, someone started jackhammering through the side of the building. And this is after I had learned from experiences in Costa Rica and in Hungary that I needed this sort of, I learned the hard way, that I needed access to strong Wi Fi, strong power, but there was no redundancy. And it was this, oh, well, it's out until it's out. And it was in my own apartment. And so there's a lot to be said for that, having that redundancy and consistency. And so that's a great tip. You said, do you look for office space before you leave? Like, do you know where you're going to go and you look for office space ahead of time, or do you do it as soon as you land? Okay. Mm. That's fantastic. We talk a lot about, living working from anywhere. You have to have a system and you have to be seamless. So you need to have no downtime and just get going right away. And that's very helpful to have that. When you go to a place, and what type of places do you stay in? So let's talk about the living part of live work anywhere. And yeah. Go ahead. Oh, okay. Okay. When you say short-term stay, a few questions came up there. When you say short-term stay, how long are you going to these places? Like how long were you in Argentina? Mhm. So there's no set time. It's just when you get, I like how you called it coffee ritual. Um, to get into your coffee ritual. So it depends. It could be a few weeks, but it's not like 2 days. You're not going to go there for the weekend or a week. Oh, right. Yeah, please. And what was that like? So that was a good question. If you don't have a Regis, what do you do? And do you feel that that was a break in your routine? Do you feel that that was a positive experience? Do you? I'm sorry, I didn't. Um, you brought up something earlier, the pets issue, and I can we can come back to definitely I want to hear more about what makes a good environment, what doesn't. But you had pets. Did you bring those pets with you to Argentina, or what did you do? Yeah, that's great. I think a lot of people get stuck on I can't go anywhere because I have X, Y, and Z. One of those things tends to be pets. And then you start looking around and there's quarantines, like you said, and that's you don't want to put your animal through quarantine. So it's definitely an issue. And I think that if we can figure out how to get through some of those obstacles, then we can make ourselves more mobile. So there's not a quarantine period for Argentina. What were your criteria, I guess, going to Argentina? Was it Regis, non-quarantine period? Like what were the criteria that made that place most attractive? Okay. Oh, that's fantastic. Do you find that you mentioned the timing, felt the time slipping away, you get into a rut. How did that change then when you went down there? Did that support? Were you more conscious of where you were spending your time? Did your routine change, or That's an interesting point that you bring up is living minimally. So, like when you go somewhere, I mean, what kind of things did you find that you absolutely had to have with you when you travel, and the things that you could leave behind? No, that's great. And a cell phone. So when you go down, how do you? That brings up a whole another topic. But do you get a SIM card when you're down there? Do you have an unlocked phone? Do you? I agree with you. I'm guessing. I mean, like you said, it's about working, but you're not. Do you find that do you take space from your phone? Do you find that it's important to take a break, like when you're out exploring new sites? Are you constantly on your phone, or are you like, okay, I'm this? Great. I was going to ask you how you Google it like mad. I like that. Do you in your sense and in your routine, what does your day look like? You know, you're in the office, you're working, you're using that phone, you're using that data. What does your routine look like? I'm curious. And does it stay consistent? Sorry, does it stay consistent no matter where you go, more or less? Mm. That's key. That's really great, Andrew. And I think a lot of people are listening to your stories. I mean, it makes me want to get up and go again already, right now. So, what was a lot of people are either stuck in routine or working the 9 to 5, and they're afraid to take that first step. Like, what help people get over that fear? Which I think through your stories they are. But what's the first step if you're like, wow, I've always wanted to go to Argentina? What's the first step? Oh, wow. Oh, he couldn't, even with the fat stack of cash. So what did you do? You didn't get unlimited internet for your phone? Did you? Mm, I agree. Yeah, you're right. You figure it out as you go, and that's the beauty of it, overcoming the challenges. And you said before, it makes you feel alive. It's not just about traveling; it's about the experiences of learning something new every day, all the time, and learning about yourself. So where would you? I'm curious. You've been to all these different places. You, of course, I'm sure have a dream list or a goal list. If you had a ticket in your hand right now, where would you go? Where would you be? So the first thing you would do is say, okay, this is where I want to go. I want to go to Paris. And then you would look up office space there and find office space. And then you would look up a place to stay while you're there, at least for the first 2 to 3 weeks while you orient it yourself unless you want to stay longer. Unless a month is your total stay, that might be your entire VRBO or Airbnb that you'll find for a month. And then you want to make sure that you can unlock your phone and get a SIM card when you get there. And you bring your microphone and you bring your laptop and awesome. That's great. So how would you overcome that barrier? How would you Airbnb your place, or what does that look like? Gotcha. So you would have to figure out what you're going to do with your place first. And you're in a lucky position, I think, because you're a lot of people. That's another obstacle people have is my spouse doesn't want to go with me, or they're not on board. So how is it? You said your wife will actually pick the place. She'll come with you. What does that look like? Wow, that's fantastic. Um, she can't stay still. I know the feeling. Um, Dang it, I just lost my other question for you. This is such great stuff, though. Oh, do you speak any other languages? Do you and what do you recommend to communicate when you do get on the ground? No, that's great. I love how you said you slim down and like you're it's different for everyone and you're in your spot like clearing some of the noise and clutter. I can definitely relate with that as well. Do you have a lot of people ask me about budget and you alluded to it when you said you slim down your expenses and you find you're able or going into a basement you're able to control some of those costs and San Francisco rent is crazy expensive. Do you find two things, two parts? Do you find it's cost you more or less when you're travel more or less, sorry, in your expenses when you're traveling? And do you have a budget in particular that you like to try and stick to when you're traveling? Oh boy. And that's a very painful way to learn, but great advice. Do you have a favorite place that you've been? I didn't even have Guatemala on the list. Or is there a place that the best, the place that worked the best, the place that worked the worst, and maybe the difference? Maybe you have a tip for us. You just alluded to exercise when you go somewhere. I think in order to continue, a lot of people are like, well, I have my gym, I have my specific diet. Do you find those to be challenges? And what do you do about diet and exercise when you're traveling? That's great. And one other question related to you said somebody might steal your laptop. So that kind of brings me to what are some ways, because that can happen. That does happen. That's happened to me. And what do you do in terms of backing? I'm sorry? Well, I'm sorry. I've had iPhones and I brought I bought a netbook and I've used an iPad with a Bluetooth keyboard and I've brought things to try and prevent theft. So I didn't have a laptop stolen. I want to be clear about that. I have had two iPhones stolen, which I connect to Wi-Fi using those so I can work. But do you have a sort of backup plan in case for your data? What do you do with your data if it does get stolen? How do you find those local communities? And by the way, I think I know Morgan Friedman. I just met him in Chile. If it's the same guy, he was living there in Santiago. And who else is named Morgan Freeman? Anyway, how do you connect to those communities? Okay. I know it starts like meetup.com, maybe Eventbrite, and look, searching for Lean Startup, being part of tech circles before you go there, or whatever your interest is. Join the communities before you go and see what's going on locally. That's a great idea. Great takeaways. Um, I've gotten so much great information for you, and from you. I mean, this is awesome stuff. I could pick your brain for forever. As being the first interview, kind of learning like what to ask, what not to ask. I love we get some travel tips here, and we also got some tips on how to live and work from anywhere. Is there anything anything that you'd want to leave us with? And also, is there anybody that you can recommend to speak with? But let's start with like, what's the biggest tip for? Is there anything you want to leave the audience with on the very first inaugural interview, Andrew Warner? And any who would you tap into? Who would be the next person to tap into, or who would you go for advice? More advice. That's fantastic. That's great. A person after my own heart. I can't wait to look him up after this. That's fantastic. And again, sorry, a guy I respect. Again, mixergy.com, everybody. So excited to have Andrew Warner on here. I've been a big fan for a long time, and I'm so excited that I get to learn a lot more that weren't just in DC. I think you were DC, Argentina, Guatemala, LA, now San Francisco, Austin, Lake Tahoe, all over the place, and Paris. So thanks for sharing your Live Work Anywhere story. Thanks for giving some incredibly valuable tips that I know will help this new and up and coming audience. I'm incredibly grateful and glad. Thank you, Andrew.